Hi, I'm Janko Tipsarevic, and you're listening to the Double Bagel.
Janko, welcome to the show. We're speaking remotely via Zoom, obviously. So tell us where you are right now and what's keeping you busy since retiring in 2019.
Hi, Eric. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast. Due to the immense amount of injuries, and actually 7 surgeries over the last 5 years of my career, at the end of 2019 in Davis Cup in Madrid, I decided to retire. I was 17 years on tour, and I have to say I enjoyed almost every second of it. Pretty early in my tennis professional career, I knew that I'm going to stay connected to the sport. I never dreamt about being this guy who's wearing a suit or, acting like a businessman, diversifying my funds into any other area of business. This is what I love, and I believe this is what I'm good at. So I believe I'll be wearing a tracksuit for the rest of my time. 9 years ago, we have opened our first Tipsarevic Tennis Academy in Belgrade. And over the course of 9 years, we spread it on 4 different locations here in Serbia. End of 2019, we have opened our first international academy in Shenzhen with 3 locations, 27 courts, and 1,300 kids. Beginning of 2020, right when the Corona started, we opened our second academy in Cancun, Mexico. And the plan by the middle of 2021, if everything goes well and we don't have the 17th wave of Corona upon us, we will be opening academies in Tel Aviv, Berlin, and Andalusia, Spain.
Wow.
So this was my full-time job since I retired from tennis. And the goal of this relatively young company is to spread the way and methodology of work, how we believe players should be coached.
Are you in your Belgrade Academy right now?
Yes, I am in Belgrade. Serbia has been doing really well with COVID. We are actually the second most vaccinated country per capita in Europe, behind Israel. So people, to my surprise, honestly, I thought they would be more opposed to it, are very, very open in taking vaccines.
So you're in Belgrade, your hometown. Let's start by going back in time. When did you become aware of tennis, and was it, let's say, love at first sight?
No, I was actually playing football and tennis at the same time since a very, very young age. I started playing tennis at the age of 7, and it's a typical tennis player story, meaning there was a tennis school close to where I lived, and rather than breaking shit around the house, my parents decided to allow me to play tennis. The good part was that I was very good from a very young age. So that kind of kept the drive and never discouraged me to stop even when I was having obstacles. I was the best kid in Serbia, under 10 and under 12. And then later on, the best junior in the world, under 14, 16, and 18. So I always had this relative success in a very young age, which kept me going and believing that one day I could become a big player.
I mean, growing up in Serbia in the same generation of other top Serbian players like Djokovic, Jankovic, and Ivanovic, and Troitsky, were you aware of each other's talent? And if so, what were your first impressions of them?
Not at a very young age, meaning my junior career, not really, because I was the oldest one, and simply because Anna, Jelena, Novak, Victor, and others didn't emerge to the scene. They started emerging once I was entering the ATP Tour when Anna was 16 and Novak was 16 or 15. And then their success, I became aware of this. But this generation of Serbian tennis players, I think it's quite amazing that all of this happened, as I like to say, from mud. There was no system, there was no culture of tennis. We have a culture of sports,
Yeah.
but no culture of tennis up until that point. Serbia as a country had a decent amount of political difficulties over the course of when we were growing up. And simply it came from nothing, basically individual work and help from our parents.
I want to fast forward a few years, Kuala Lumpur 2011, your first title. Considering you lost your previous 4 finals, what was going through your mind coming into that match?
It wasn't, I remember I almost choked at the very end of the match where I was, I think, set and double break up, then serving for the match, and then all these thoughts that I'm never going to win a tournament start coming. But because I was on a roll playing really well, at that time I'd broken to the top 20, I believe, and I was chasing the Masters in London. I think that the determination prevailed fear. So I had a very tough opponent in Baghdatis in the final, who is a very experienced and great player. But I remember in the moment when I won, it was more relief than happiness, because losing 4 finals in a row is no fun. I'll tell you that much.
I mean, one of your other career highlights would be for sure winning Davis Cup in 2010. How satisfying was Davis Cup victory compared to winning ATP titles?
It cannot compare. The biggest happiness that I actually felt on court was winning Davis Cup, and especially because we won it in Serbia in front of 20,000 people. This is something which this generation wanted for quite some time. Obviously, having Novak as the best player in the world at that time dramatically helped us because he was winning all of his matches. But it was a team effort where Victor played amazing in the finals against France. I played really well in the semis against Czech Republic. And it was just a complete team effort, and still to this day, the biggest happiness I felt on the tennis court.
And talking about Davis Cup, I just want to briefly touch on your teammate, Novak Djokovic. You've not only got to play with him on the doubles on tennis, but you've also got to know him as a person off the court. What is he like off the court, and what makes him such a champion?
Novak is incredibly humble off the court. He is probably, talking about this stature, the most unmaterialistic person that you would ever meet. Like, he normally, when you create generational wealth, people like this tend to change. Novak, from the moment that I know him up until this point, didn't change one single bit in any way. But definitely the most unmaterialistic person that I know, a guy with a big heart who is always trying to help everybody, especially Serbia and its teammates. The reason why he is where he is, I believe the number one factor is mental strength. I don't want to say that he's more talented than Rafa, or Rafa is more talented than him, or Roger. I think this is up for debate, and we can talk about this forever. The reason why he actually came to the next level was because the mental strength which was accumulated over the immense amount of years, and the sacrifice that he was able to do outside of court, or outside of the tennis court, to better himself and become an actual champion. I don't think in any way that he was actually, not that I don't think, I know that he wasn't practicing more on court than Rafa, or practicing more on court than Roger, but the amount of professionalism and sacrifice that he was doing outside of the court, I think it's unmatched by any athlete in history.
I mean, what do you mean by that?
I mean that every single thing that he could do to become a better tennis player outside of the tennis court, he was doing. A lot of the things, a lot of the times for us tennis players, there's always a thought for us is dramatically important what we do on the tennis court.
You mean the diet, right? The diet and all that stuff.
Well, not only the diets, like basically everything that he could do to become a better player, starting from diet, starting from nutrition, starting from meditation, starting from yoga, starting from stretching. Like, it would be basically a decision making. Is this glass of wine good for my tennis? No, it's not. Okay, I'm never saying never, but I'm just not drinking it.
Right.
Is this piece of bread, even though it's not going to change my life,
Yeah.
is this piece of bread good for my tennis? No,
Yeah.
it's not. It has gluten. I'm allergic to gluten. I'm never going to eat it in my life, which takes dramatic discipline.
Yeah.
So I believe this is the main reason and factor why he is where he is.
Back to you, Janko. Many would regard your career as plagued by injuries. I read somewhere, and you told me yourself that you had a total of 7 injuries in your career. Do you actually remember all of them? And was there one that was memorable, I guess?
I feel I was robbed of the last several years of my career, especially when I kind of figured out what I need to do in order to be top 10.
Yeah.
Because up until that moment, I was always around 30, 40, maybe 50. And then I kind of broke through and figured out what are the things that I need to focus on, what are the things I need to do. I got married and I was more or less in my prime at the age of 26, 27, 28. All of the surgeries were being done on my legs, and it was a chain effect due to the compensation of the first injury, which I had on the left plantar fascia, which was actually a benign tumor. So they had to remove in 2 different surgeries, basically 80% of my sole. Is it sole?
Yeah.
The foot? Yeah. And then due to this, even though I was working really hard on rehab, the compensation factor moved to my right knee. Then we had to do 2 surgeries there. And then due to both issues, everything moved to the, how do you say, you have the quads and you have the
hamstring,
not the groins, like the back part of the leg muscle. How do you say the?
Is it hamstrings?
Hamstrings, yes. Sorry, I should know that. So we had to do. I mean, we had to do 3 surgeries on hamstrings, and just at one point when I figured out, okay, it just doesn't make sense. As a player, I was always fighting until the very end. Even the motto of all of our academies is actually keep digging. I had it tattooed on my body. But at one point, after 7 surgeries and 5 years of struggle, I decided it's time to focus on a different aspect of my life.
I mean, what has gone through 7 surgeries taught you? Has that changed you as a person and as a player?
I think it changed me dramatically more as a person than as a player, because I believe if you are not facing obstacles and trying to overcome them in any areas of life, essentially you cannot become a winner in any area of life. If you tend to give up easily on any hardship that life throws at you, I don't believe you become a winner in life. And I don't mean business. I mean parenting. I mean relationships. I mean relationships with your parents, with the people around you, or anything that you decide to do. I tend to try to educate my kids and also the people that I'm working with that the persistence part and the discipline part is actually way more important than anything else that we're doing.
I mean, how has the game of tennis progressed since the start of your career in the early 2000s to present day?
I think the biggest change when I was playing, in terms of the guys which were playing before us, was the actual movement on court. Guys, and I'm not putting myself in this category, obviously, guys before the champions that emerged, like Goran, like Sampras, like Agassi, they could hit the ball very hard. But they could serve as hard as the guys are serving right now. But if you look at the difference in the biomechanics of movement on court, and you look at the top 4, and you can throw Andy Murray in that category, the way how they were covering the court from all aspects, 3-4 meters behind the baseline and 2 meters inside the baseline, is just a completely different level than what was happening before. Right now, due to I believe, a little bit slower surfaces, the game has become, to a degree, a little bit more powerful. You have these big hitters on tour that are just smacking the shit out of the ball, and you can even see it in a tremendous amount of risky second serves that is going on right now, which is the trend on tour. I believe a small difference that happened from the generation when I was playing with the kids emerging now is that kids and younger players are just able to hit the ball way harder than what we were doing.
Like Dominic Thiem, Andrei Rublev.
Matteo Berrettini, even Sasha Zverev. It's just the power is before it was more about tactics and movement, and far from it. The guys back then, Joe Wilfred Tsonga or Thomas Berdych, that they could, or Del Potro, that they couldn't hit the ball. But now it's just constantly coming in these waves of powerful shots, and I think this is a small change which is happening right now on tour.
Is this because of sports science, or?
I think the biggest impact was the actual biomechanics of movement. Guys like Rafa or Marai or Roger or Novak changed the game because they were moving 50% better than the guys which were coming before them. You could see this also has to do with the slowing of the surfaces, and even on some events, or even Wimbledon, playing with a little bit bigger balls or changing the way how they cut the grass. So points are actually longer. So guys, the four guys that I mentioned, they were able to move way better than people were doing before them. The biggest, you can even see somebody who was as tall as Goran or Krajicek or whatever, they moved in a decent way. But if you compare how guys with the same size, like Marin Cilic or Thomas Berdych or even Del Potro, how they're moving, these guys are 2 meters tall. You don't see it on TV, but they're moving like cats on court. When this was established and you see all these guys being good movers, which are young now, then they're adding a new layer to the game, which is the ability to hit even harder because they're positioned on the ball to do so.
I mean, you talked about it before, but the motto you set for your own life and your tennis academy is keep digging. What do those 2 words mean to you personally?
Normally, when you are young and when you read all of these fairy tales where there is a hidden treasure or a hidden gold somewhere hidden, first of all, normally it's always at the end of the book. It's never on the very beginning. And in order for the hero of the book to find gold, he needs to go through certain obstacles. He needs to travel far away. He needs to fight several sea monsters. He needs to survive the wrecking ship. He needs to, fight some guys to achieve the ultimate goal. And essentially, normally, if you continuously keep digging or keep trying, what I said about my surgeries and the amount of discipline that is required, normally you will find your goal in life, whatever you're looking for. But the main part is not even the internal motivation that you have. This is maybe 1 or 2%. The main part about achieving your life goals, whatever they may be, this doesn't have to be professional, is the discipline that is required to continuously keep digging no matter the circumstances. Snow, rain, sun, you essentially just don't care.
I mean, Janko, have you ever read the book The Alchemist? It's very similar to what you said.
I did. A long time ago, but I didn't know that it's in the book.
It's very similar.
Okay.
I mean, after retiring in 2019, you transitioned almost immediately into coaching, linking up with Filip Krajinovic. How did your partnership with Krajinovic come about?
Filip is a part of we have a managing agency where we manage around 7 or 8 top 100 players. Filip was one of the players in the managing agency and somebody that I'm personally very close to and have a great relationship with. So the general idea is that we try and find him a coach who is of a certain standard that could assist him in potentially making the next step, which was breaking into the top 20 and potentially into the top 10. I wasn't planned to do this. My wife was pregnant at the time. My plan was to focus more on what I'm doing right now. But because we weren't able to deliver a coach that he liked, or the coaches that we did deliver couldn't commit for the weeks that he was required, I took on the responsibility to help him, especially because we're living in the same city.
Yeah.
And it was easier for us to practice in Belgrade, and I could promise him a certain amount of weeks. It was a very, very good relationship. I learned a lot from it. Philip is one of the most talented players on tour, definitely. At the end of the year, we decided to stop due to several reasons. The main reason was my commitment to my family, because I never had a year off from tour where I was, playing, then doing recovery, then playing again, then coaching, and then it just would have been a little bit too much for me and my family. So, but we still are great friends. I even helped him even without being his coach, I even helped him on the preseason for beginning of the year. So the relationship is better than ever.
How would you describe your coaching style?
Well, if you ask Philip, he would say I am the biggest terrorist that you can, that you can ever meet.
Yeah.
I think the coach needs. First of all, it's not about the coach is the leader of the group. It's not. It's a team effort. It's always about discussing with the player in terms of what needs to be done. But I am a big believer in creating deals together with the team or with the player, and then when the deal is made, of course, if there is injury related problems, that the deal is never changed. That this is the way, this is the highway that we're going, this is what we need to do as a team to improve, and this is what we are doing until the certain aspect of a player's game is improving. I believe that in the world of tennis there is too much of this, I like to call it sweating, meaning that we are on the court, we are doing something, but we're actually doing nothing.
Right.
We're just sweating. There's no actual vision. It's not even the vision, because I don't believe that I see anything more than any other of the coaches on tour or in the world are seeing. It's just that I'm a big believer that if there is a certain aspect of the game that needs to be improved, this particular aspect needs to be worked on tirelessly until it's better. Meaning that over the course of 4-hour practice day, a certain amount by percentage of time needs to be dedicated to this particular problem that we're having as a team. Because in my opinion, a player's game is like a chain. And when you try to fix a chain, and if the chain is broken and it's not working, you don't throw away the chain, or you try to fix every single, how do you call the link? Every single link.
Yeah.
Once you are focusing and determining with the player and your team to focus on fixing the particular link which is hypothetically broken, once the link is fixed, the chain is working again. And what I feel a lot of coaches are doing these days, we are doing everything a little bit, which is, in my opinion, completely wrong and completely stupid without sounding arrogant. So I believe I have a dose of professionalism, which I have from my playing days. I understand the emotions of the game because I was there almost at the very highest level. So this obviously adds up and helps in terms of the way that I try to coach.
So it's more about practicing with a purpose.
It's more about, it's exactly as you say. I'm not saying that any of the coaches, when there is a particular problem that we are facing that needs to be fixed, you need to have an eye or a feeling that to say, even in the execution of a particular shot, which chain is actually, which link in the whole chain of the biomechanics of the movement of the execution needs to be worked on so that the whole shot makes sense. It doesn't make sense if you're hitting your forehand and there's an issue with it and you're talking about 4 different things, meaning bend your legs, use your wrist, use your elbow, turn your shoulder. These kinds of coaches that generally become, as I like to joke around, commentators. They're just taking a microphone and they're just saying whatever is wrong. Well, guess what? If you isolate Rafael Nadal's forehand, I imagine you can find 3 or 4 things which are not technically completely perfect. This doesn't mean that this is not one of the best forehands or one of the most productive forehands in the history of tennis. So we talk about working on the game, but even when you're working on the technical aspect of a particular execution of a shot, you need to have an eye and a determination to work on the link which is missing to make that shot better. And only focus on that. I go as far as, and I essentially don't care where the ball is going or where the player is hitting the ball. As long as he does what we, not what I say, but we agreed as a team that needs to be done, I am completely convinced that with that attitude, it's not a question when the link is going to be fixed. It's only a question, it's not a question whether the link is going to be fixed. It's only a question when.
Has that style been influenced by any of your personal coaches?
Yes, definitely. My mentor on the tennis court and in life is Mr. Dirk Hordorf, who helped me tremendously over the course of my career. When I was younger, I was always all over the place, wanted to do all sorts of stupid stuff. And he was able to simplify the game of tennis for me. He's German, so as you can imagine, he's really straightforward. So this kind of coaching gave me tremendous success. And then later on, I was really going deep into this aspect, how to approach a player in a certain way, just so I'm not here with a whip and saying you need to do this, because I don't, essentially it's all about the player. Coaches are an additional staff that need to wake up a certain emotion on a player that he or she performs better. But I believe simplicity and repetition is grossly underestimated in our sport. I get goosebumps when I hear all of these coaches talking about 77 different things which may be important, or 75 different things that need to be worked on.
So less is more.
Less is more in terms of advice, but more is always more when it comes to repetition. I don't believe in, even when a particular aspect is being fixed and the player says, okay, I feel it now, this means absolutely nothing. Repetition equals discipline, discipline equals muscle memory equals spending less energy. Because if we essentially need to think about what we are doing, this means that in a bottle of energy, which we have during the course of one day, we need to spend a certain amount of energy by thinking what is it that we actually have to do on court. And the only way that we preserve this bottle of energy, what is this? That is for the hand sanitizer. To preserve this bottle of energy is actually creating a muscle memory that this movement or this particular thing is being done without us needing to think, should we or should we not do it? When the ball drops short inside the service line, Roger Federer doesn't think, should I step in? There's not even a thought, should I do it? It just happens. But the only way that this actually happens in the match environment with all the fears and anxieties and insecurities is constant, boring repetition of a significant factor that we are working on as a team on the practice court.
I mean, you founded the Tipsarevic Tennis Academy in 2013, which you touched on at the start. Was running a business difficult for you, considering the massive change of career?
I tended to surround myself with very good people. In the very beginning, obviously in 2013, this wasn't the monster. I'm not calling it a monster, but we do have in Serbia around 75 employees. And if we talk about all of these locations, we will have well above 100. over 100. But in the beginning, it was quite small. The first two clubs had like 6 courts, 7 courts maximum. But since I knew that I wanted to do this, I was kind of slowly building up, because I knew that this day will come when I won't play tennis anymore, and this will be my full-time job. So it didn't happen that I was running this, huge business while I was competing and playing on tour. It was gradually growing, so that once my career is finished, that I'm able to go to the next stage of my life. And I think it's very important for any professional athlete, for that matter. I think it's very important that at a certain stage in your life, you need to think what are the next steps.
I mean, Janko, you've had the experience of coaching top professionals and upcoming juniors. What would you say are the differences?
I would say that top professionals are grown men which don't need to be reminded about a certain aspect which was agreed with the coach or the coaching team as much as juniors or teenagers. When you work with an older player, 27, 26, 30 years old, normally it's all about the execution. It's not about the continuous reminding which needs to be done, that a player needs to do something which was agreed on. I understand, because I was a dumb teenager, like all of us were at one point, that teenagers tend to be all over the place. The teenagers which make a serious leap and jump into the senior tour, into the pro tour, are the ones that start thinking like pros at the age of 14, at the age of 13, at the age of 15. If you see, and if you dig out all of these interviews from Nadal or even Zverev or Tsitsipas or Novak, when they were very young, at the age of 14, 15, you can see that they're talking and thinking like they're 27. Which is a huge, this either comes from, most of that comes from how you were educated by your family, then it has to do with the coaching and everything else. But because they are able to think like grown men at a very young age, this is something which is giving them tremendous jump and leap over their peers in that particular age group.
I mean, I guess you sort of answered the next question, but Janko, do you have any regrets looking back? And how have you tried to teach your academy students not to have the same regrets you have had?
The only regret that I had was this period from going from the junior tour onto the senior tour. Purely because of hard work and talent, I was the best junior in the world. But I wasn't even as close as focused enough. We talked about this briefly, about what Novak had in the earlier stages, in the earlier stages of his breakthrough. I didn't have the amount of discipline or sacrifice outside of the tennis court. I was thinking, if I do my practices 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day, basically outside, I was able to do whatever I want. Now, I wasn't drinking or smoking or doing drugs, but I wasn't professional enough as much as I wanted to be in order to make this giant leap to the senior tour. So this period, when I started playing pro, due to the ego which was built up over the course of my junior career, I was kind of, I don't want to say regressing, but I was staying on the challenger tour for a period of 2 years, which was completely unnecessary. So what we try to teach, you cannot teach someone to be a champion, but you can teach somebody to be a competitor. And you teach somebody to be a competitor only, in my opinion, through discipline. If a player is disciplined to execute what is needed from them on the practice court, this is actually, the match is only an extended arm of what is going on in your life and on your practice court, what will happen on the tournament or on a match environment. So discipline is a big factor, what we try to do in all of our academies. I have 4% battery on my laptop, and I forgot my charge.
We'll try to be quick. Try to be quick. So I guess tell me about other influences in your life that you count as major milestones or turning points, besides winning your first title, Davis Cup, and your coaching relationship with Dirk Roloff.
The biggest influence in my, there are two, actually three people. In a very young age is my mother and father, which believed in me and basically gave everything they had for my dream and my tennis. And if they didn't do it, there was no federation, there was no sponsor, there was no anything that I could lean back on in terms of that this part didn't work. And in the senior tour, in the pro tour, it was definitely my wife, who she was the one telling me, and she didn't know anything about tennis, but after a year or two traveling with me, when we were dating, she was saying, yeah, but I hope you know you're good enough to be top 10. And I was always, shut up, you're not right, I'm not good enough, whatever. So she was the one which gave me the belief to say, yeah, but you are stupid if you think that you're not good enough to be top 10.
Yeah.
So this was the part that I really started thinking, I really could be better than 50 or 40 or whatever my rank is.
I mean, last part of the interview, Janko. So I'm going to name 5 players you've played against. Can you tell me in a few sentences what the strategy would be for you to play them? So the first one, let's start with Nathan Hewitt.
Leighton Hewitt, I believe with Leighton, as stupid as this may sound, you shouldn't be allowed to be dragged in his game of continuously playing backhand cross court. This is a shot that he misses 3 times over the course of 1 year. So you need to try and be as aggressive as you possibly can be, which is, again, how do you say, like a oxymoron, because he has one of the best passing shots on tour. But the worst thing you can do with him is continuously allowing him to drag you into his game in playing these longer rallies and staying on the backhand cross.
Head to his forehand.
Normally his weakest point, and I've beaten him once he wasn't Leighton Hewitt, once he wasn't the number 1 player in the world, was that at some stages he was able to give you short balls once you're able to open him on the forehand. And once he did, you needed to use that opportunity and not, okay, let me move him on the backhand and let's stay from the baseline and play endless cross.
Andy Murray?
Andy Murray is actually, oh my God, you're really giving me the difficult players. I think with Andy Murray to a degree is actually similar. Andy Murray has one of the best backhands in the history of the game. And you shouldn't try to go into these long, extended rallies with him. The one advice that I could give, you need to be as determined as possible, because if someone like Andy feels that you're not determined enough to play the point, or that you have fear from going to the net, it's like a shark who smells blood, or like an octopus. They drag you into their game, and then there's no way out.
Andy Roddick?
Andy Roddick, I want to say that I had some success against Andy over the course of my career. I think there are certain patterns how Andy was playing, which I was able to kind of read. I wasn't too much affected by the speed of his serve, because I didn't mind if somebody was serving 240 or 250, because I'm not the tallest guy. I was more affected if somebody was serving wide. With Andy, I would say use the weakness on his backhand, and if you're approaching the net or going to the net, always go to his backhand. The forehand passing shot is just too good.
Gael Monfils?
Gael Monfils is a similar story like Andy, where he is one of the best, if not the best, defenders in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
And the worst thing that you could do is play this game of, let me play one cross court, one long line, one cross court, one long line. You need to kind of, I know this sounds silly, but overuse the middle of the court, because Gael is so long, he has the ability that from 1 or 2 steps, he reaches every ball.
Yeah.
So in the game of chess, how he's playing, you're always going to lose, because essentially he's going to spend less energy. The last part is play until the last ball. I had several losses with Gael. I had several victories, but I lost, I remember, several points.
Yeah.
I hit an incredible backhand down the line, and I scream, "Come on!"
Yeah.
And the ball is coming back.
Yeah.
So play the ball until the very last ball.
And 2%. Last one. Kei Nishikori.
Oh, I have to say, this is one of the weirdest head-to-heads on tour.
Yeah.
Where somebody who was a better player than me has such a terrible score against a player like me. So it's 0-5 head-to-head.
Yeah.
In Kei's defense, I was able to beat him when he wasn't Kei Nishikori, when he was younger and breaking through.
Yeah.
And at that time, he didn't have discipline to hold on and stay longer in the rallies. He was playing this incredibly fast game, which he essentially is playing.
Yeah.
But once he broke through, he had more discipline in creating less unforced errors.
Yeah.
So before, it was always a mental battle where I was being victorious, knowing that at a certain stage, he's just going to break.
Yeah.
So at that stage, it was more about mental toughness than tennis.
Yeah. Janko, thanks so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much.